Hey, what's up? Kalen here. Welcome to another Mroz Hero live stream. I'm here with my boy Bart Mroz with Sumo Heavy, an e-commerce consultancy in New York and Philly. Did I get that right?
Yep. Yes, you did.
How you doing?
I'm good. It's Friday.
Friday, man.
I know. It's Friday. It's really warm outside, which is really strange because it was cold not long ago. Welcome to New York.
I'm getting used to like new definitions of warm and cold, because I moved from LA to Austin and stuff. So what does warm mean in
It was like 90 here yesterday.
Oh, that's hot. That's
yeah, hot.
Is it getting humid out there?
Yeah, I mean, it gets really bad. So warm here is, it could be 80 degrees in full humidity and you want to die.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, shout out to Roger Kalen in the live stream. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Anybody that has questions, and by the way, quick apology because I didn't mean to do this at the same time as my buddy TJ's live stream. I tried to move it, but he doesn't have a hard end. So anyway, we're going to try to do a better job of scheduling going forward. I wasn't trying to overlap that by any means. So my apologies. We're just moving fast and breaking things. I've been doing daily streams and having a good time with it. So with that, if anybody has any questions, feel free to fire them. We're going to be talking about, I think, Bart, we're going to talk a little bit about, like, from your perspective as an agency, what does the process look like when clients want to hire in-house?
Yep.
What does that conversation look like? We can also talk about, like, I've always thought your retainer model is really cool. If you want to open up that kimono a little bit and talk about that, or whatever else, you want to
off our head.
Talk about levels of humidity in New York. Oh, also, you've been doing your own podcast for on Anchor for, what is it, a year now?
Over a year, yeah.
Over a year.
We're on episode. I have no idea. That's really funny. What episode are we on? I don't remember.
You guys do. It's called the E-commerce Minute.
E-commerce Minute. It's a very misleading title because it was funny. We're on. I know. I don't even know what.
Because it's daily. Because you guys do it daily.
5 days a week. It's We're on episode 214.
That's really cool.
Yeah, 214 episodes, which is kind of crazy. We started with nothing and just kind of went with it.
And I listen to it. I catch those from time to time, and they're fun, super digestible, and
sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're just boring, sometimes there's a lot of stats in them, sometimes we just crack up. They're fun.
I love how at the end your buddy's always like, got anything else? And you're just like, nope. You like say no in like 18 different ways each different episode. But
well, I mean, so here's the funny part of this. John and I know each other for over 20 years, so we don't even look at each other when we do this. So we're totally remote. We don't even using video. We don't even use video when we do this, and I still know what he's doing, which is kind of crazy how we do this. That's how you get know people for a very long time. Right. It's always funny, and if you ever heard us do this live, it's sometimes a lot of bloopers and hilarious things that happen afterwards. So we're gonna put some blooper stuff out there at some point.
Nice. So you guys aren't in the same room when you do it?
No, he's in Philly. He's outside of Philly. I'm in New York, and we almost never do this together.
Nice.
In 214 episodes, I don't think we ever did it together.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, we use Zoom for everything. So Zoom has a great recording. It works for us really quickly, and we'll just go from there.
Nice. Yeah, that's the same way me and Philip did it, And then when we finally did one together, it was just this whole different dynamic and stuff. And
it's totally different. It's fine. I mean, it is what it is. Are you recording this, by the way?
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
We're doing it live. Yeah, so it's live on YouTube, and then it just automatically gets converted into a YouTube.
Nice. I like the background going on there, sir.
Thank you, sir. I've put a little bit of work into the studio setup here. And,
all right. What do you want to talk about? Oh, so you had somebody talk about. I'm sorry, I didn't listen to the one from yesterday. I wish I did. I just didn't have time today.
You mean you couldn't just carve out a full hour of your day right in the middle of the day with no notice whatsoever, just to listen to random people on the internet?
No.
That doesn't make any sense.
I listen to random people in New York. So we were
no, but it was a good, buddy of mine, David, he's in-house with a merchant and talked about his perspective on, how he came in as a developer and then sort of became an e-commerce manager. And one of my takeaways from it was that this e-commerce manager role, like even if they don't know they're hiring for it, the developer has to sort of become it. Which is interesting. I actually used that little nugget on a call today with a prospective client, a merchant, and so it was cool. But so that was interesting getting the merchant's perspective, and so it'd be interesting to get the agency perspective on that, because this whole dynamic is like all of a sudden client wants to hire in-house. It's like, wait a second, does that mean budget's going to flow from us to somebody else? So that could be a challenging dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, we've went through this whole bunch of ways. So either we get brought in with the internal team or the team got hired internally. Eventually, so we had a client that went with them for 3 years, and we did all the work with them, and then they eventually hired slowly internally, which actually worked for them. And then we have clients that went backwards, actually. Where it was a big ginormous team and they slowly got rid of them, and then stuff happened, and then we took care of most of it, which is always an interesting dynamic itself, but there's no hard feelings anywhere there.
Right. Well, definitely no hard feelings when they went the other direction.
Either direction, actually, it actually worked out.
Well, that's the thing, is like the best agencies are going to be the ones that don't feel threatened at all by those types of decisions, and would even encourage it if it's, at the end of the day, the best agencies are going to care about what's right for the client, regardless of their own financial incentives.
Right. So the idea is it's always about the client, right? And financial, it's more your job as a consultant is supposed to get yourself, like, work yourself out of a job, really, right? They need you for a very, very, very. I mean, we have clients for a very long time, and we run with them, which is great. But we have a unique model that lets us do it.
Right.
So I mean, so on the retainer model, so we get clients hire us on a full retainer, on a monthly retainer for this whole team, and it's working with them every day. So for us, it's not just one project; it's multiple things. We become part of the team, and currently, and what we do now with clients is more of helping them be more efficient. And with helping them with process and actually working it. So it's not always, we get hired for specific things, but once we're in there, it becomes a process thing than anything else. It's working with the teams, making them work better. It's human. It's all those kind of things. So it's just not walking in and doing a project. So what helps with us if people hiring their internal team, they usually come to us, especially if we're there for a year or two. That will come to us because we're part of that team. So it's definitely a different perspective of you should be hiring an internal team or not hiring an internal team. And we actually more than just us being the thing.
No, I mean, and ideally, like you say, you're consulting with them on that whole process, and they trust you. They're not worried about whether you're going to be biased. They just know you're going to give them the best advice around whether it's hiring, whether it's some internal process. And I think I heard a podcast you were on a long time ago, maybe a year, 2 years ago. Was it Brennan Dunn podcast?
A while ago. Yep.
Yeah, I remember where I first heard you talk about your retainer model, which is pretty straightforward. But so your model is that you do retainer only.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It took us forever to get there, but yes.
Okay. and then I think you share your price points publicly. If I.
Yeah, it really depends, but our price points are usually, they start at a certain level. They're between startup 20 to 15, 20, 25 grand a month. But it really depends. Like, that's just numbers that we just put up there. The way we start every single thing, we'll do discovery or project planning and stuff like that. It's usually 30 days. It's between $15,000 to $20,000 for us. It's a full paid discovery, but we go heavy handed. Mm-hmm. So not just project definition, we'll go into stakeholder stuff. We'll define the projects, look at your systems, look at code reviews, It really depends where the client is and how we're doing with it. And then we really define everything that we need to be done at least for the next 6 months and kind of work with you from there. The beauty of that is it's a one number a month. There's no up and down. It's just number on both sides. Scope changes change every day. So for us, it's just wrapped into it. So it doesn't really matter, if it's one thing or another, as long as it's not like overloading everybody and it's fair, then it's a conversation. Everybody asks us, well, how do you upgrade them? It's more of a conversation of what the workload looks like. And then just having an open communication with the client all the time. We have clients where, for 6 months in the beginning, it'll be really heavy workload, but then it's going to become slower. So you use this whole average over multiple months. And it works for us really, really well. And it works for clients because then it's flat, it's fixed cost for them.
Yeah.
Plus we're month to month. We're not, and that's a weird, like, everybody's like, why are you doing month to month? I'm like, because it's just fair on both sides. The other side, because we do month to month, we also get paid on the first. Like, that's our requirement, to get paid on the beginning of the month.
Right.
The work we're going to do. But, it doesn't change in that month.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's so funny because I've, having worked in an agency previously and seen nightmares around fixed bid projects and just seen how many ways that can go wrong. I've just always, it's always intuitively made sense to me. That's sort of the way to go. With Commerce Hero, I strongly discourage fixed bid. And every time I talk to, we were doing a podcast with Philip Jackson and John Woodall, who both are with Enterprise Solutions Partners. And, John kind of made a joke. He was like, well, I can't remember the last time, because they do fixed bid, a lot of fixed bid. And by the way, it works really well for them. So if it's working well for you, then ignore, it doesn't matter what I say. But, they were like, I can't remember the last time a client came up and just had an open with a blank check. They always want to know what's the number. And yet I know it's possible because I know people like you and others are doing it. But it's like this mindset shift where you just have to go in with it. And if you said yourself, it took you a while to work up to it. So it'd be interesting to hear about that kind of story. But it just seems like kind of the way to go. By the way, quick shout outs to a couple people that have joined. Uniacid, username Uniacid. Thanks for joining. And my brother, Devin, what's up, Dev, is actually in the stream here. Roger Kalen, by the way, said he was looking at Sumo Heavy Careers page right now. And he said fixed price is only possible if you have an exit criteria that is automated. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, or, just in general, like, how did you get to the point, how did you said it was difficult to get to that?
It was just it was a long process to sell, to get to a point where the conversation, and actually Brennan actually has a lot to do with it. How that
did you take his courses?
I did. I actually know Brennan, so
it's freelance.
One of those, like, I know Brennan for a while now. But yes, actually, that's where it started. It started at Sumo. The first year we got really, really screwed. We were just a development shop doing like $60 an hour, like just two guys in the bedroom, like just trying to get stuff done. Yeah. And got really, really screwed. And then it was like, well, all right, well, let's figure out other things. And the guys from Less Everything, Alan and Steve.
Oh yeah, I just recently talked to Alan. I had a call. Yeah, he's doing all sorts of stuff.
Steve was a big loss. So
yeah.
Very big loss. That definitely affected me a bit, because I know those guys for a very long time. But those guys, like, they had this whole theory of like, oh, you should bill 2 weeks ahead, and that's how they did it. For the next 2 weeks, basically. And we took that and then just kept on going with it. Iterated into bucket of hours, and bucket of hours didn't make sense at some point because we were getting bigger clients. Screw this, let's just do monthly. This is what we're going to do. And we just pitched it, and it worked. And then it worked over and over and over, and really, really converted everybody that way. It's just a mindset, really. Everybody's like, well, how do you know how it works? I'm like, because we're efficient. I mean, we have 10 clients, about 15 employees, and nobody's overworked. Nobody's, we just happen to do all the processes we do with clients. We do it internally too. So it just works.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I didn't realize that. Oh, because there's a bunch of people. Do you know Andrew Culver?
Yeah.
You know him?
I know him, yes.
Oh yeah. So he lives in Simi Valley, and we connected. We live pretty close by to each other. I think he used to work with Brendan Dunn, and there's this whole. Are you familiar with MicroConf?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I've never gone.
That just happened this week.
Just happened this week. I've never gone because it's always right after Imagine, but I know there's this whole bootstrapped software company community around Startups for the Rest of Us and MicroConf that I know, but I've never been, and I didn't realize how. And then like the Magento side of me is I've always felt like it's these two different communities. I didn't realize how looped in you were to that.
So like Ben Lee, who from Neon Roots does the whole Rootstrap thing, which is all discoveries and stuff like that. That's very like pivotal to what we do. We kind of took that and ran with it. So I know Ben too. So it's all these little things that we kind of picked up from other places to be like, this is how we do it because it makes sense. And then we have big companies that work with us and they're like, yeah, it takes them literally a month to be like, oh, well, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Because what happens is a lot of times, and if you're hourly project and it works for you, that's great. I just feel like for us and our clients, it's just I take the financial conversation away from the actual work. So our project managers and their project managers, they just go straight like full speed.
Right.
They don't worry about that. That's my job. That's a conversation I can have with a client. Those guys, they talk to clients every day and they just do work.
Right. At the end of the day, I feel like you're eliminating lower value work because estimation, like nobody can estimate anything.
Nobody can estimate, right?
All that time that you're spending on your side, they're spending on their side. Everybody trying to magically triangulate on what the cost is going to be in order to agree to something. At the end of and then the funny thing is, even people I know who say you have to go fixed bid, they always say, well, we start with fixed bid, and then ideally we move into retainer after that.
Yeah.
And they say something to the effect of like the fixed bid establishes trust. And I've thought of the word like loss leader almost, and nobody really thinks of it as a loss leader, but I think in some ways it is, because whenever you do a fixed bid, there's a certain probability, probably a high probability, that you're going to take a loss on it. And like at the end of the day, like if you do, I love it. People always want the cost. I'm like, sure, but at the end of the day, it's not a website, right? E-commerce is complex. It's difficult. It has different things to it. In this world, yeah, it's crazy, but people always want that number, and they're like, well, you just gave us, we didn't do any work with you. We don't know what it looks like. What can we fall apart? I can't give you a number, because if I give it to you, first day we work with you, it's wrong. Right.
Automatically is wrong. Right. You can't hit it. Nobody hits that number.
Right. And so like really the end goal isn't getting that number, because everybody sort of knows that's never going to be the final number anyway. The end goal is trust. Yeah. Because what they say is, well, we do that, we work together, then we establish trust, and they feel like they have boundaries around what they're going to pay because of that fixed bid. But the goal is to get to that point where there's trust, and then to get to like retainers. So what you're doing is kind of short-circuiting it, where you're saying, listen, if you trust us already because of however you were referred to us, whatever you've seen of our work, and the trust is there, let's just, like you said, let's both hit the ground running. Let's not waste time on estimates. Let's hit it hard from day one.
Well, that's also where the discovery comes from, right? We always do discovery engagement. And that's where your trust comes from, right? You make it's a small investment for both sides. It's actually doing good work. At the end of the thing, you get a humongous piece of like document of, this is what's got to happen. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
And you can go, people do wrap that into their engagements. We like them separate. It works for us. But
in the sense, it's all part of your same engagement, because it's the same price. It's
eventually becomes that, right? We've literally just closed 2 clients where we did discoveries, and they're like, oh, just a monthly. I'm like, yeah, let's just go with it, right? They're like, yeah, it's just the same. Okay. And then one of them, we're like, well, listen, we need to do a lot more work because you want this. They're like, this is going to be the number. They're like, yeah, great. Okay, let's just go. It's more of just that. Once you go in there and really heavily do it, it's just getting them there. It's also like, for us, it's also like that dating period, right? If you understand and get through this process with us, like it you're staying around. Like if you're with us for that month, you're with us for a while, unless something else happens.
And yeah,
and the buyouts and all that kind of stuff.
And the reality is you're not going to really have any idea what the relationship is like until you've spent about 20 grand, whatever the number is, if it's 20, if it's 10, if it's 30, 40.
Whatever that is, yeah.
You're not going to, on either side, the client can do this big discovery and sign a $500,000 project. They're not going to really know what it's like to be in bed with you until they've done that 20 grand worth of time together, gotten into the weeds a little bit. So,
right. Would you sign a contract for $500,000 or a contract for 20 grand?
Right. So yeah, I just think that's a cool model, and I think at the end of the day, it's about trust and the other thing too is that for people that always do fixed bid and the idea of doing an open-ended retainer seems impossible to them. The way that the conversation starts out, I think, determines a lot of it. So, client comes to you and says, "We're looking to do X." And they say, well, what's your budget, right? So right away, when you've said that, you're taking things down that path of we're going to have a fixed thing versus if the first thing that you say is these are our costs and that's just the only option, there's no other options, then either they won't be interested, they'll look somewhere else, or, they'll just go for it.
So there's two different things that get to the same place. If you're doing fixed bid and you say, hey, it's this much for 6 months and we're going to build this whole thing, just do it over 6 months and bill them every month like you would do in a retainer model. Because then it gets them used to it, right? Mm-hmm. So we've done when people asked us, hey, what does it cost? We're like, listen, we got to go through discovery. We just did a pitch today. We always go through discovery. We understand everybody needs that number and stuff like that. This is our guess. It's probably going to be wrong, but it's going to cost you, this much money based on this kind of retainer for that many months, and then we can go from there. And that's really how we kind of got into that. It was, this is the price, and this is how it's going to look like, Yeah. So with like $180,000 for the site over a year, it's a $15,000 retainer. It's one of those. Yeah. And then we just kind of twisted that a little bit because once you get clients used to that, where it's just a flat nonstop fee, then they're okay. After the project ends, they're like, all right, well, what's the maintenance? How can we work with you? All that kind of stuff. And that's how it's all started.
Yeah. Well, and that seems like a better, if you are going to estimate, estimations are so hard. Some people do, what are they called? Story points and stuff like that on individual tasks. But it seems like if you are going to estimate, estimating 1 month, $20,000 chunks at a time is probably a more reasonable way, hey, this is probably 3, this is probably 6 months is probably a more reasonable way to estimate than trying to.
It's got to be right. It's got to be on a grander scale than just minuscule stuff because you just won't know. And the thing is, what we know is that we can start a project and in 2 months, something comes up in the company, right? The client goes, hey, this happened. We need to switch the gears. We're like, okay. There's no changes for us. We just go, okay, let's just start reprioritizing stuff. There's nothing. Literally, there's no paperwork. There's nothing we have to do. It's just you have us for those months. It doesn't really matter. And we've had that happen over and over and over. But it's a conversation on our bigger scale clients, that conversation happens every single day because we have a stand-up every day. With smaller clients, we have a call every single week. And that's priorities for the next thing would happen, the usual stand-up stuff. But also clients talk to us every day, all day long. So we have project managers internally that just run all these stuff nonstop.
Right. Yeah, and it sounds like you really have a way to really become part of their team. Everybody says that. Everybody pays lip service to being on the same team, but it seems like you have a model. I remember we were talking before, and you said that they sometimes put you on their org chart.
Yeah, we were on the org chart of a client before. And really become part of the client.
Yeah. But one thing you said was basically going beyond just hey, can you build me an e-commerce site, to how can we increase efficiencies in your business across the entire business. I saw something on Reddit the other day where somebody said, hey, I just wrote some Python code in a few hours that is going to save my employer 25 grand or something like that. And they said, I want to start doing this on a freelance basis. And I was thinking to myself, that's awesome. Like, it's rare that people, agencies or developers position themselves as, hey, I'm going to go into your business. I'm going to find ways to save you money, and I'm going to do them for you. I'm going to charge you less than I'm saving you. Because like, who can say no? Like, you just can't say, especially if you're helping to identify those problems and you're not just like taking orders, doing what they ask you to do. Like, who can say no to that, you know?
Yeah, so we found that on our model is that we're not siloed to project or department, right? Because once you're in there for a while, people know you. You know exactly what it is. So marketing will come to you. Customer service comes to you. Like, hey, we have an issue with the site. We need to get better. We had a client that the customer service had 3 minutes to answer something, but it was taking them 45 seconds to look up a customer, right?
Yeah.
So we went, okay. It took us 2 days to fix it to where it was like 0.004, whatever. It was like just minuscule what it is. You don't think customer service just loved us for that? Yeah. But how do you don't figure that out if you're not in there every day and then people ask you there all day long, right? Yeah. So it's those kind of things that happen with us a lot, because on the other side, we can't really, a lot of times when we talk to people, we're like, we don't only build stuff. We're like the management consultant, we're the human consultant, we're the technology consultant. Building sites for us is just building sites, but really walk is where it's at least for us. You know, that's why we stick around for a while.
Yeah. I love that. And I mean, a bunch of questions jumping off of that. One is management consulting. Like, I don't know very much about that. How did you get into that? What does that look like?
It's the same thing. Like, we call it management consulting. There's a lot of those terms that have to be thrown out there. But it's really just it's helping the e-commerce team be better, from the technology to the human stuff, and figuring out how we can work with all the teams that, especially on a bigger scale where there's a marketing department, there's customer service, there's technology, there's DevOps, like all those, we play in those every single role. And having the skill and knowledge of e-commerce to go, hey, we should do it this way because it's better. So there's definitely ways of doing that. And I'm throwing the terms regular management consulting because we play in that world, but we're like boutique-y and not really, we're not McKinsey or any one of those guys, but we play in that world.
Yeah. How do you find problems to solve? Like I'm sure that, when you start, they have lists of, a list of things for you.
Right. So usually it's your typical. Your rescue, your problem, your re-platform. Hey, we have a new project. Always starts this way. Like, literally, it starts like a usual project. And then once we're in, it's kind of like, all right, well, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening. Like, it just keeps on. We keep on unraveling, especially in discovery. Discovery is kind of fun because it's not just defining a project, but it's looking at the whole company together. Mm-hmm. Right? It's looking at cost savings. What can we save? What can we look at? What can we?
So, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you figure out what?
Just a lot of talking. It's a lot of walking in there and just listening to people.
Yeah.
Right. And what's cool is that I always little laugh, and it's we do a good job of what we do, but a lot of times what you do as a consultant is literally walk in and listen to the employees that are there. And then turn around and go, this is what you should be doing. And these guys are telling you this, but you're not listening to them at all.
Right.
And that's fine because companies don't, especially on a larger scale, they're having issues there. And it's a big company. They have a lot going on and things like that. So it happens, which is fine. But we come in and kind of distill that into, hey, this is your priorities. This is where the money is going to be. This is where cost savings are. Those kind of things.
Yeah. Is there a typical type of client avatar that you guys will, as far as size of the company, number of employees, revenue, that you guys find is a good fit for you?
Yeah, I mean, right now most of our clients, well, we have a really ginormous range of clients just because some legacy clients we still have because we love them, and then new clients are a lot bigger. But we probably fit in the 75 to 250, $300 million in sales type of places.
Nice. That's where you want to be.
Well, it's not even that. It's just multiple things. A, they'll have an internal team. B, they can that's affordability that we can actually give them a good process and be a huge impact. Going into a $2 million in sales company and charging them what we charge, that just kills them, right? It's not easy. we can help them, but it's not going to be a big thing. Where a company that's 200, $200 million in sales, it's a different story. That's a big impact.
Right.
You move that needle 5%, and that's a big number.
Right. That pays for your monthly retainer for a couple of years.
That is. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just being truthful to what we can do. And at that level, they usually will have the systems and they'll have enough people, or they grow from 0 to $150 million, with us. We've done that. And they went on their own because they're set up properly and they're fine. Right. And they might come back and be like, hey, let's adjust some things. Right. So there's different levels, but our play is that, it's not the small stuff. And we don't chase everything either. We like it that way. Mm-hmm. It's being there.
Yeah. And do you tend to work with like retailers, wholesalers, manufacturers?
Everything in between. Like literally everything in between.
Okay.
We went across the board. It just depends what they need.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think of you guys as being, Magento agency or in the Magento community, but you've obviously broadened out way out, to management consulting on one end. Like what like percentage is like doing Magento stuff versus
it's still in there. It's part of our tool set. Yeah. But so is everything else. Mm-hmm. It's funny. It's part of our tool set on our front side, but on every back end, everything else is different. It's different. We've done a lot of custom work, a lot of microservices, a lot of breaking down, built some stuff from the beginning where it was just crazy. I mean, when we first started, we had a site that was doing or was made to do some ungodly numbers, like 20,000 orders an hour. Mm-hmm. Weird. Yeah. And I think our biggest catalog was 8.5 million.
Nice.
Which was 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine Magento 1.2 on 8.5 million products.
Oh man.
We actually rewrote the indexer, price indexer into Mongo because it was running. So 8.5 million products was going to run for 15 days. We made it into 5.5 hours.
Nice.
Point. That was really funny. Yeah.
That's so funny.
We have clients that do some ginormous number of communities still.
Yeah. Have you guys gotten much into M2 yet? Because I know that. Yeah. Okay.
All M2. Yeah. I mean, anything new is build is M2. And we're moving people over to M2.
Because I know a lot of the companies that focus on retainer, a lot of times are geared towards more maintenance work, and so they have.
We waited. Yeah. We waited for a while.
Smart, man, because I know a lot of it. I know some small agencies. I was talking to somebody at Imagine with a huge agency, very recognizable agency, who got hit hard on some M2 builds early on. I have a buddy with a small agency in the Netherlands who, sadly closed up shop because they got hit so hard on an M2 build. And I was pretty early on saying, I didn't think it was ready at even the first year and stuff. And so
you were saying that we literally just started on things.
Yeah, I feel like just the last
project, any new project will go to it, because it's kind of really, it's fine. I mean, listen, we went through we had a site on Magento beta. That's how I got into this.
Nice.
Literally beta. Like we're crazy that way. But we also broken it down. Like we're also do a lot of writing of our own modules, and like we're very particular how we do stuff, and very, very like test everything. Like just very, the guys over here are a little nutty about it, but it's great. But we're like, nope, for a very long time. We're like, clients were like, well, I'm like, no, that's not happening. No way, because it made no sense.
And that just goes back to what we've been talking about where you can just be trusted to give good advice, whether it's on hiring, whether it's on should we move to M2. Are you guys in a Magento partner?
Nope.
Yeah, you're on team no partner, just like me. All of the.
For us, it's about the client, right? It's not about the platform first. It's about what solution it is for the client. Listen, we have plenty of enterprise clients on Magento. We have plenty of community ones. We have all in between.
Yeah.
For us, it's about the client. It's always going to be about the client.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I had this whole group of buddies that were like not partners, agency owners, and I was like, we're too cool for the partnership type of thing, and then they have since all become partners and stuff. So I'm like,
I know.
yeah, I think when you are a partner, I mean, it goes back to look at people's incentives, and everybody has different incentives, but they sort of were forced to push those M2 licenses pretty early on. And so I think I'm always a fan of being independent, so that you can, just do what makes sense. So,
I mean, our job, we're consulting. That is our job. Our job is to help clients be their best. And that's what the deal is. And the client pays me that fee.
yeah,
That's just the easiest explanation for me why I don't want to be a partner.
yeah, yeah.
And we've had this, we were a partner back in the day when the first partnership stuff came out. We just have this whole thing about not being a partner of anybody, and we won't be.
Yeah.
Listen,
Would you be my partner, please?
Oh, I'll give you a hug. It's more of also, it's the other side of it that we won't do any financial based partnerships at all or partnerships, but we will recommend people that we love.
There you go.
So any tool that's great for a client, we'll recommend.
So you don't accept any commissions, you're saying, on any referral?
No, never. I rather give. I've had people go, I'm like, just give the discount.
Just give the client the discount.
They're like, we can't do that. I'm like,
yeah.
How does that make sense?
Yeah.
But whatever.
I usually just would tell client, if there's that type of scenario, I usually tell people, hey, I'll give the referral to you. Because at the very least, you have to let them know about that you're getting the commission. If not, just forego it entirely.
I feel like, and I've had this happen where I just feel like where financially based stuff, you're like so a little bit tied to it, right? For me, the client pays us to do good work, and that's what I want, and that's the only thing I want. So I will bring the tools that I know, whatever they are, to the clients that are best. And if that tool is no longer good, I don't feel obligated at all. It's like, nope, sorry. Client later, let's just get off of it. Let's do something else. And I've had that happen.
So you talked about how you've had some clients that slowly hired their own team to replace you, others that have gone the other direction. What do you think are the reasons why some people go one direction or the other? Like, what type of a company, maybe it's not the right fit for them to hire their own technical team. Like, what are the patterns that you see there?
Some are not. There's some companies that want to be more technology based, but they sell other products, and then happens where they want to. I mean, it's really that really brings the startup world a lot more than anything else. Investors were like, "Well, we need you to be this whole owner of the whole thing,
own the IP."
So they need to bring people in, which is fine. I mean, that's how it works, right? The other side of it, people are like, let's put it over here, but manage the things we do best here. I'm a big fan of, and not that because we're a consulting firm, I'm a big fan of doing making people do what they're. So if you have a strong team that's technology based, that's running it internally, hire a team outside and go with it. Hire a really good e-commerce manager or a director that understands every piece of it and knows how to run it really well, and project managers around that, and just let the technology go where it should be,
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
Yeah. No, you mentioned startups and IP, and it just made me think of something I recalled seeing in some contracts. I'm curious, do you in your contract, does the client own the IP? Or I know some people, the way they do it is that you as the agency own the IP and the client has like a license to it. I know
it's said that way, but the client owns it all. I mean, listen, it's open source world. Like, that makes what you're not making anything different than anybody else. So no, it's true. Like, it's e-commerce, right? Your business is not. It's not really that proprietary.
Right. I just did this goofy spoof video on like the typical cheesy guy that's like, I'm looking for a developer to work for equity, and you got to sign NDAs, and you're just going to work on pure equity. You're going to get 5%. And anyway, I did it as a spoof, and then like 3 different people pinged me and were like, "Hey, were you serious about that?" I was like, joke, man.
I mean, we have a company that we have some equity in.
But I think working for equity is great. The joke of it was you're going to work for 6 months for only equity, and you're going to get 5% equity. But like, I think I love the idea of working for equity if you really, if your base pay makes sense and you really believe in it, or if you really, really believe in it and you want to work for full equity, as long as the numbers are right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tricky. And how many people have be burnt by that a lot of different ways, and
totally.
And they're like, sure, you're working for equity, but you got to then buy into it. Like, it's all a bunch of like stuff that just makes it very, very complex without people actually explaining to people what they're getting.
Mm-hmm. One of the I have a buddy in the UK named Ryan Atkins, who has an agency called Allies, and they sort of think of themselves like an incubator, and they'll take equity in their clients and things like that, which I think is kind of neat. But like, so what's the company that you have equity in?
We have a little one that we work with every day. It is a e-commerce play. We've been with them for 3 years now.
Nice.
We're friends with them. It's great, but it's more of that's the only thing we've done. I'm not a big, if you don't understand it, if you don't have a thesis of, hey, this is how we're going to do equity and stuff like that, in consulting world, it's really hard to do. Like, what am I going to do? Especially in our, like what we do, like I can't take equity of a public company. Like, one of our clients is a big public company. We can't do it. Like, it just makes no sense, right?
Why can't you do it?
I mean, I would have to invest in the stock. It's a public company.
It's a public company, so you could invest wherever you wanted to.
But that's not, for us, we bet on ourselves, and I like it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, you have to know what you're looking for and what's a fit for you, and
Yeah, if I was investing in companies, I'd be a VC, but I'm not. So.
There you go. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I like client. I'm crazy. I like client services. People are like, always, "Oh, why don't you do a product?" I'm like, yeah, I can't help it.
I remember you told me that, and I think that's actually. How long have you been? Has your agency been around?
In 10 days, Sumo's been. It's going to be 8 years.
Nice.
But this is company number 6, so I had an agency before this.
Okay, that's funny because I don't think most people really love being an agency owner. I think some people, they stumble into it and then they're just waiting to exit. Some people, they're like I have a friend that he's like, the plan is I'm going to build up the agency. Once it's big enough, we can build a product and then go the product route. But when you really love it, like when you really have found a passion for it, like that's when you're gonna.
Listen, Basecamp and 37 Signals kind of screwed everybody because they went from an agency to like, oh, we do this product now and we do this well. Yeah, not everybody can do that. It's this different set of problems.
It is.
Like, mind you, if you get through that and you can do it,
yeah.
Great. But if you can't, like, I happen to like client services, and I've always been like that. I work in restaurants. I work, what I mean? For me, like every consulting, I consulted forever. So we did this. What we did though is we productize what we do. If you really think about it, we call it a retainer. There's no real word for it, but in the day, we're just a SaaS product, right? Consulting services, but we charge monthly fee. That is literally what we do. Made it a bundled type of thing, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So kind of, it is product. Like for us, it's taking all those little things and being more efficient. Like, everybody's like, why you do that? Part of it is once I put stuff in our billing system, it goes out, it goes in. I don't have to sit there every month and go through a day of, hey, here's all this stuff. I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I know when it goes in, I know it comes out. There's none of that.
Yeah.
So we made it sure. Am I leaving some money in the table in the beginning? Absolutely. But I'm a big fan of, I'll give them revenue for long-term goal, for gain.
Yeah.
Just
and I remember, and I think I remember you saying that, like, by day 5 into the month, if they haven't paid, then you just stop work.
Well, that's our contract. We don't actually. We work. I listen. There's some clients we know it's going to take him 7 days. You know, but it's all the money. Like I can tell you exactly when it happens.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about that.
No, but like, I mean, I just had somebody recently hire somebody through Commerce Hero, and I gives people flexibility to arrange their own terms. And so they hired a full-time contractor, and I usually encourage them to like invoice within 2 weeks or whatever. I really need to move to a model where it's just fixed amount per month, kind of like yours, and simplify it. But anyways, hired him, and then he's like, yeah, I'm supposed to invoice after a month, and then they're gonna pay after like 60 days. And I'm like going, so you're not gonna get paid for like 3 months? And of course that means Commerce Hero won't get paid for 3 months too. But I'm just like, okay, I'll let you know. And this is a client that's worked with other people and they've made payments, or else I would have put the kibosh on it. But it's just like, man, you're putting, and I know agency owners that, even have clients they've worked with in the past, and all of a sudden they owe them 17 grand, 30 grand. And it's people really, I think, overextend themselves with their billing.
Well, right. So this is also why we do the retainer model the way we do it. And it's billed on the first. I mean, it's due on the first. We give you all those things, meaning that we don't charge you for meetings and calls and anything. It's all wrapped in this. But we require you to pay on the first because of those kind of issues, right?
Just keep it simple for everybody,
A, keep it simple, but B, like, especially contractors, freelancers, like, you're not a bank.
Right.
Why are you giving them 60-day terms?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
you're the farthest thing from a bank imaginable.
Right. I'm making money on that money. Like, to me, it's always hilarious. Like, I can't go to a bar and order a beer and say, hey, I'm going to pay you in 3 months.
Right. Right.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I'm providing value already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As soon as something is implemented, it's value. It's there. Yeah. So I've never had that like mindset be like, well, no. Listen, we have a client that's a net 60. I get that. But we may deal with them where they took all our contract stuff and they're like, listen, everybody vendor has to have net 60 because it comes from the CEO. And the only way you change that is the CEO.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, here's the deal. We're going to do it this way. And they're like, okay. And we still have net 60 with them, but we figured out how to kind of measure that out and play with it a little longer. But
what do you mean?
Every other like term in our contract accepted without arguing, except for that one, which was fine with me, right? You have to be fine about it. But when you're doing, you're still a freelancer, like for me, if you're doing that, if they're going to pay you at 60, fine. So it's this. But if you can give them terms, if you pay in the next 14 days, it's 10% off.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure you do that, right? Mm-hmm. Like sometimes that incentive works.
Yeah. So this is all super interesting to me. I'm keep trying to think of ways to bring it back to that original topic.
I was just kind of veered off of it. What we're talking about? Oh, hiring internally and externally.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like everybody has their own perspective on how they work. For us, we love having internal people, and the more they can hire and have internal for us to do consulting with them and help them out, the better.
Yeah.
We like it that way. Also, there's this camaraderie with people outside, and so we're really easy to go in and do it. We've done that where people are afraid. Your typical, we got to bring the bobs in, and everybody's afraid. It takes us a day. It's easy. We pitched a business the other day, and we haven't been hired yet, and the IT guy is like loves us already. Like,
nice.
So it's one of those like just easy.
How do you put them at ease? Like
having us there, having face to face, having there on the phone. It's not only me; it's my business partner Bob. Having us just talk to them like a natural talking, nothing like we don't do a dog and pony show. We do not. We go in jeans and sneakers. I don't do it. But putting those guys at ease and knowing where you're.
But like, how do you put, let's say, the internal technical people who maybe feel like, management consultants maybe feel like you guys might negatively impact their job, and all the politics around that. Like, how do you
conversation?
Yeah.
My secret weapon is just bringing my business partner with me. He's the technology side of the company, and they talk the same language easily.
Yeah,
I'm a tech guy too, but it's just something about that. having those people have the same characters and knowing what we're doing, it just puts everybody at ease.
Yeah. Yeah. And
you have to have that conversation. You have to, in the beginning, literally the first day, you have to sit down with them and go out with them and do like that kind of, that kind of work. It's a relationship, end of the day.
Yeah. Are most of your clients local to New York or Philly?
No, we have them all over the place.
You just fly out and.
Sometimes we haven't. One of our clients is in Colorado. We haven't seen him physically in 2 years.
Oh, nice.
But we've been with him for 5, so
oh, nice.
You kind of go through that process of like, we know you guys, like
totally. Yeah, it's I mean, it's interesting, the whole internal resources, issue. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have.
What was the conversation you had yesterday?
Oh, so the conversation was with a guy that is in-house with a merchant. They I think wholesale or manufacture RV parts.
Okay.
And he was hired as a developer, and then now he does like 30% coding, 70% e-com manager.
Yep.
Works with an agency to kind of supplement what they're doing, but he does enough coding to where he's he can scratch that itch for himself as far as the amount of coding that he wants to do. But just like you said, like him as the internal person can help to gather requirements for the external agency to make sure things are going smoothly. There's the role, when a merchant hires a developer, it's a much different role unless they already have e-com director, or a technical team. It's they're hiring an e-commerce manager even if they don't know they are. And,
they definitely are. And I would say, and not only conversation was like yesterday, but I would say if you're an e-commerce developer and you're looking at a job for an e-commerce developer and they have nobody there, you're going to be the guy. You're going to be the guy who has to be the e-commerce manager, meaning you're dealing with all the vendors, with all their integrations, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you want to do that job, you want to get to that point, awesome. Go to those kind of places where they need somebody like that.
Yeah.
If you don't and you want to just develop, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get stuck with it. You're never going to code forever.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, I was talking to somebody today that was in-house with a merchant, left because they wanted to work agency side. They just wanted to focus on coding.
Right.
And one of the preferences I've started to capture with developers on Commerce Hero is, do you prefer to work for a merchant or an agency? Some people have a strong preference. If somebody has a strong preference for a merchant, I'm like, great, because then I know if a merchant's hiring, I know there's probably going to be a fit there. So yeah,
there's certain people love just that one straight mind. Like, I am only doing this site. This is what I'm going with.
I can solve longer term problems. I can think about.
Or I just like doing that. Yeah, I want to concentrate on this. Like our developers, no, they love having every day. Most of the developers work on 3 or 4 sites a day.
Yeah.
Because they get their tickets, they're like, hey, I want to solve this problem, this problem. It's just, they like that whole idea of just learning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to have a different mindset for each one. I know people who went from a retailer to agency and back and the other way around, just because you get interested in different things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's all about kind of knowing what you're into, being self-aware, as Gary Vee would say.
All self-awareness, man.
You're a big Gary Vee fan, right?
Yeah.
Or you met him, right? I think did I see a picture?
Times.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of times.
That's cool. Yeah, I go on and off sort of watching his stuff, but
if you need a good caffeine kick, sometimes you got to watch it.
Yeah.
If you want to wind down on Friday, if you want to wind down on Friday afternoon, you don't want to watch it.
Yeah. Nice, man. Wait, anything else on your mind? Anything else you want to?
No, it was nice seeing you for a hot minute.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
I know, it's so weird. Like, this is like the first Magento, the whole Magento I didn't go to. But I had family things, so that was more important.
Yeah.
I showed up for Pre-Imagine because
that's what matters. That's what matters. That's the whole event.
Hey, for me, it's about the community. It's not about everything else. So
yeah,
which is great. I mean, it is. I don't know how much you got from it or how was it and things like that for the rest of it, but
it was good. I haven't really been doing a lot of the content sessions for a couple of years now. I always feel guilty, but for me, it's always about just hanging out with people, reconnecting with friends, and meeting new people. So so it was a lot of fun. And,
Good.
And obviously Philip did a great job as the MC, which was super cool.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, crushing it. So
cool.
Well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much, my friend, for joining in this illustrious live stream. And anything that you want to plug? Any plugs?
Yeah, listen to our podcast. It's called E-commerce Minute. ecommerceminute.co. We actually have an Alexa skill, so you can have that too. And then subscribe to all the podcast things.
Have you heard of VoiceCon? Did you see the VoiceCon thing that Gary Vee's doing? It's like a conference on voice Alexa skills and
I'm not gonna go because it's not cheap, but yes.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Well, thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining in. And I got to get my finger on the end thing button so I can close it without looking. Thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate it. We'll probably be doing these every day. I think we're just going gangbusters. And we appreciate it. Thanks for joining. If you asked a question we didn't get to, sorry about that. It's tough sometimes to focus on the conversation and also the questions, but just email me if you have any questions afterwards and I will try to answer them. So thanks so much and we'll see you soon.